We've had enough. That's the message being sent from many around the world to big business and government as people in almost 1,000 cities take their anger to the streets. The Occupy Together movement, which began in New York, is now demanding global change. Let's now zero in on two of the rallying cities and talk to our correspondents. RT's Ivor Bennett in London, Daniel Bushell in Brussels. Hello to you both. Ivor, to you first. London saw violence and disorder on the streets just a few months ago. Any concern about some sort of repeat?
Well, there's no violence here just yet, and there's none planned from the protesters. But of course, that could always flare up with the police using the tactics they are. They've just started kettling protesters here, which means they're containing them in a small area, and that has been a controversial tactic in protests in the last 12 months or so, which has seen violence flare up. But don't forget, this is a very different thing to the riots that we saw across England about 2-3 months ago. Whereas that was an impromptu outburst with an unfocused goal. This is quite the opposite. It's a peaceful protest, and it has a very clear message. That is the democratisation of the global finance system, and they're calling for, as taxpayers continue to bail out banks, they're calling for banking executives to pay back their bonuses. Now, to begin with, this action of Occupy the London Stock Exchange was ridiculed a little bit in the press in the last couple of weeks, but it's definitely gained momentum with 15,000 followers on Twitter and Facebook for the event, and people have been turning up here, hundreds, bordering on 1,000 probably, with huge backpacks full of food, tents, sleeping bags. So clearly they're very serious, and they're planning to stay here a long time. Now, to talk more about this, I'm joined by one of the organisers, Spiro van Liemenen. Spiro, thanks very much for speaking to RT. Now, how long are you planning to stay here?
We're planning to stay as long as it takes to see the government responding to people's calls, and until we see some change, really.
And what's happening right now? I mean, you're planning to march to the stock exchange, which is just behind the cathedral behind us, yes. But you're being stopped. So what are you going to do?
Well, the square right in front of the London Stock Exchange is private, like everything in the city of London, really. So the police has now kettled all the protesters just outside St. Paul's Cathedral, and I don't know how we're going to take it further, but we're not going home. We're going to stay here, and we're going to find a place where we're going to camp until our voices are heard.
Do you really think you're going to change something? Are you really going to stay here for weeks, months even?
Yes, I think that's the whole point about it. No one said it's going to be easy, but that's what we're going to try to do. And what's happening in Wall Street it's been very inspiring to people around the world, and especially here in the UK. So they've been an example.
What exactly are you hoping for? I mean, are you modelling this on the Arab Spring or what?
We're modelling this on Occupy Wall Street, but definitely Arab Spring has been very positive. We've seen people around the world standing up. We don't expect from the governments to represent our interests against the banks anymore. We have to do it ourselves, and if we don't do it ourselves, we're going to keep paying for the banks, and and they're going to go away with more profits on the back of taxpayers. So.
And how much support do you think you've got for these calls?
It's if you think that we started only a couple of weeks ago, and we were a handful of people who started something online, and within 2 weeks we have 12,000 people following us, and 5,000 people confirmed that they're attending the event. And now, as you see, we've got a couple of thousand of people who turned up, and it's been very inspiring, and it means that the timing was right, and that people were looking for something like that, something that transcends political affiliations, and something that is truly democratic, a grassroots movement, and a global movement, first of all.
Spiro van Liemenen, thanks very much for speaking to RT. We'll continue to bring updates here from London as the protesters try and take their protest to the London Stock Exchange. At the moment, they're not being able to because it's private property, but you heard it there, they're not going anywhere until they get what they want.
All right, Ivor, thanks for that. As the numbers swell in London, let's head over to the European political capital and speak to Daniel Bushell now in Brussels. Daniel, a lot of anger over Europe's financial woes has been centred in Brussels, the heart of the EU. How worried do you think that European lawmakers should be?
Well, protesters are targeting three key EU buildings here: the European Commission, the Parliament building and also the Council. They're particularly angry here because you had one of the best social systems traditionally, very generous retirement conditions, also very good unemployment benefits. And as one protester here put it, the bankers gambled and lost our money a first time. The crisis came and now we're being asked to pay for their mistakes a second time. Now the reaction of the EU officials has been also making people even angrier. When asked about their reaction and the significance of the protests, a spokesperson for the European Commission answered, "How does that concern us?" And the EU Employment Commissioner Laszlo Andor joked that protesters should go to Frankfurt instead, the seat of the European Central Bank. The police reaction has also been excessive. One MEP invited around 30 protesters to his Parliament office in the EU Parliament here and to discuss their concerns, but he was blocked by riot police on horseback, even though it was obvious that the protesters were peaceful. Now, after protests against the heavy-handed security company in charge here called G4S at the European Parliament, around 7 protesters were eventually let through to actually discuss their concerns.
All right, RT's Daniel Bushell there in Brussels, and of course RT's Ivor Bennett live in London. We'll be catching up with you guys throughout the day. Many thanks indeed.